Okay, here's the notes for inverse functions. Inverse functions. Okay, this is part 1 or worksheet 1, right? This is the notes. Right, copy them down. Don't just watch this video. You're copying the notes down, you're copying the examples down, and you're able to see easy problems and then building up to a little bit more challenging ones. Okay, so this is part 1. What does that mean? Well, that means that there's going to be a part 2. So here we go. Okay, find the inverse of each function. That's going to be the directions. Find the inverse of each function. Okay, now so you'll have a given function. So let's say number 1, f of x is equal to 5x minus 20. This is already an equation. This is already a given function. You have to find the inverse. If this is your given function, right? This is your given function. So you don't have to find that. That's already given to you, right? F of x is equal to 5x minus 20. When they say find the inverse, they're asking you to find this. The inverse, in the notation for the inverse is this: f negative 1 of x. When you see the little exponent right there to the power of negative 1, that's the inverse function. You got to find another equation, right? This is an equation, right? Because it has the equal sign. But remember, we gave it a new name and a new look. So this is the given function, and this is what they're asking you to find. You're going to find another equation or another function, which is the inverse. And the inverse has this little notation here with this little negative 1 exponent. Okay, so here are the steps. The work is pretty, I think it's pretty easy. It's like algebra 1, maybe algebra 2. It's just the steps and knowing what to do. So that's what's going on. I'm just kind of explaining what's happening here. They're giving you a function and they're asking you to find its inverse. Okay, so algebraically we're going to find its inverse. Okay, so we're going to start with the given function. And I'll kind of go a little bit more detailed with number 1. After that, I'll go a little faster with the other problems. Okay, so start with the given function. And the first thing you're going to do, no matter what this is here, no matter what letter is here, F, G, H, whatever, you're just going to change it temporarily. Remember, this is the same as Y, remember? Going back to just looking at an equation. So just change it to Y. You really haven't changed anything. Just for the purpose of doing these type of problems and finding the inverse, you need to see X and Y, right? So let's just change this back to the Y. Change what? F of x to y. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, it's really the same thing, right? Okay. Now here's the part where the inverse comes into play. And algebraically, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but when you see this graphically, it is. Okay. The next part, here's the big aha moment here is when you do this. Right? You have y equals 5x minus 20. Now you're going to do this. X is equal to 5y minus 20. And you're going to be like, what? Now notice what changed. Everything looks like it's in the same place. So The only thing that honestly really happened is you interchanged. The y changed to the x, and the x changed to the y. That's what's gonna happen on this step. Interchange x and y. From here to here, that's what happened. Right? This was a y, you change it to an x. This is an x, you change it to a y. Interchange x and y. All right. And then now your objective is, this is not the answer. This is not the equation. Then your objective here is now solve for this new y. Remember the y was over here, but now we interchanged it. Okay. Solve for this y now. That's what's going to give us a new equation. We can't use this one. We can't use y equals 5x minus 20. That's this original given one. But once you interchange it and the y's here, now I got to isolate the y, right? That's what it means to solve for y. I got to solve for y. And let's do it like this. This one's an easy one, right? If I want to solve for y, that means get y alone on one side of the equation, right? So wouldn't you move this 20 over to that side, right? So you'll have 5y is equal to x plus 20. Yeah, but it kind of looks weird this way, right? Because like the y's on this side. So I'm just gonna write it this way. I'm just gonna put right, instead of reading it this way and saying 5y equals x plus 20, I'm just gonna read it this way, right? It's gonna say 5y is equal to what? X plus 20. I'm not moving the 5y over there and moving this over here. I'm just saying it, instead of reading it this way, I'm just reading it this way. 5y equals x plus 20, but I'm just writing it the same way this way. Why? Because we're used to seeing the variable that we're solving for on this side. Now, what would you have to do to solve for y? What would you have to do to solve for y? Well, I don't want that 5 right there. Wouldn't you... Again, I'm going to do every little step. Wouldn't you I divide everything on this side by 5, and I divide everything on this side by 5. Okay? And this y, and this new y, which is this x plus 20 over 5, and just leave it like that. Don't be doing this where you cancel this, remember? If you're going to do that, you got to do x divided by 5 plus 20 divided by 5. There's another way. But this new y is your inverse. Okay, so I took a little longer on this one because I'm showing every little step. Okay, and that's how you do it. Okay, so again, just quick replay. We start with the given function. You change this first part to the y, right? This part, change it back to y. Y is equal to something x, right? And then you interchange. That's like the magic here for doing these inverses. When you interchange it, now it's solved for x, right? You want it to be solved for y, so that's why you got to solve for y. After you interchange it, solve for this new y. And that new y that you solve for, that is the inverse. That is the inverse of the function. Okay, let's do another one. Number 2. And we'll go a lot quicker, right? Because hopefully you understand what you need to do. All right, here we go. G of x is equal to negative x plus 3 over 2. And keep following because the examples are going to get a little bit more challenging, right? A lot more challenging. Okay, so what's step 1? Change this to y. Y is equal to negative x plus 3 over 2. That's step 1. Again, I explained that in the first example. And step 2 is your critical step. What is step 2? Step 2 is when you interchange. Interchange the x and the y. So then that becomes x equals, and that becomes negative y plus 3 over 2. But see, now this equation, it's a rational equation, or you'll have some denominators, right? So from here to here, we interchange. The y changes to the x changes to the y. Everything else stays the same. Now your next step is to do what? Solve for y. Oops, that was a little close there. Solve for y. That's step 3, right? Solve for this y. But before I try to do all this, I don't want to have anything with fractions. Anybody remember in Algebra 2, how do I get rid of any denominators, any fractions? Well, I'm going to take care of that first because I don't want to work with fractions. Right? If this has a 2, I'm going to multiply everything on this side by 2. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side, right? That's just so that I'm not working with denominators or fractions. So here's a little trick we learned. So now, obviously these will cancel here. And you're left with this equation. We're still solving for y, but I just had to do this little step to get rid of that fraction, right? We got rid of the fraction. Okay, now you're still solving for y. I don't want negative y. I don't want negative y, so how about if we do this? I want this y to be positive. Why don't I move it over there to that side so that the y is isolated and it's positive on that side, and then I throw that to that side. So when I move this over, that'll be positive y equals, and then when I move that over, it's going to be negative 2x. Right, it's positive 2x, but when you move negative 2x plus 3. Okay, that's it. This new y that you solved for is your inverse. All right. Okay. Oh, sorry. That's it. That was a G. So this should actually be a G right here, right? I mean, that's not a big deal, but yeah, let's just keep those letters the same. If this one's g of x, then the inverse has to be g negative x. Okay, next one, 3. Actually, I'll do the next 3 on the second video. Those will be the complicated ones, so make sure you watch the next video.